Imagine you're an experienced pilot flying for your country's national airline. You've just taken off from an airport you've departed hundreds of times in your career. There's just one problem. You don't know what height you're at or what speed you're traveling. And there's one more issue. It's nighttime. This is the story of AeroPeru Flight 603. Please subscribe our YouTube channel and press bell icon. It was just after midnight on October 2nd, 1996, at Lima's Jorge Chávez International Airport. AeroPeru Flight 603, a Boeing 757 with 70 souls on board, was being prepared for a routine flight to Santiago, Chile. The crew that night was among the airline's most experienced. Captain Eric Schreiber, a 58-year-old veteran, and First Officer David Fernandez, 42. Together, they had nearly 30,000 hours of flying experience. The passengers represented a mix of nationalities: Chileans, Peruvians, Mexicans, British, and others, all settling in for what should have been a smooth 3-hour journey under a calm, starless sky. On board are 61 passengers and 9 crew members. Most passengers are Chilean, though many other nationalities are represented, including 11 Peruvians, 6 Mexicans, 4 British, a New Zealander, and other Latin Americans. The weather is good for flying: light winds, no rain, and good visibility on the ground. About 1,000 feet above, a layer of flat clouds hangs in the sky. The atmosphere in the cockpit is calm as the pilots prepare the aircraft for takeoff. The captain even makes a joke about the crew's precision. The takeoff was normal, but moments after the aircraft climbed into the night, First Officer Fernandez noticed something strange. The altimeters, the instruments that show height, were reading 0, even though they were clearly ascending. Then the airspeed indicators began acting erratically. Within minutes, the cockpit became a chorus of conflicting alarms. The overspeed warning blared, suggesting the plane was flying too fast, while the stall warning shuddered the control column, indicating it was too slow. The rudder ratio and Mach trim warnings added to the confusion. The pilots were flying blind, enveloped in clouds with only their instruments to guide them. And those instruments were lying. The plane enters the clouds, and the pilots must now rely entirely on their instruments, 3 of which they now know are not working. Captain Schreiber notices his airspeed indicator isn't showing the speed he asked Fernandez to maintain. Fernandez then sees that his own speed reading is also incorrect. Captain Schreiber took control, directing the aircraft away from Lima's surrounding mountains and out over the Pacific Ocean. He ordered an emergency declaration. Air traffic control, trying to assist, provided altitude readings, but unbeknownst to everyone, those readings came from the plane's own faulty sensors and were dangerously incorrect. The crew believed they were flying at 9,500 feet, when, in reality, they were much lower, descending gradually toward the dark waters below. For 30 agonizing minutes, the pilots struggled to make sense of the chaos. They ran through checklists, communicated with controllers, and tried to cross-verify the few pieces of reliable information they had. But the barrage of false warnings, overspeed, stall, terrain, made it impossible to distinguish reality from error. First Officer Fernandez, realizing the stall warning might be genuine, urged caution, but the captain, overwhelmed by the contradictory signals, trusted the altimeter's false reading. When the ground proximity warning system screamed, "Terrain, pull up," they mistakenly believed they were near the Andes Mountains, not the ocean. At 1:10 a.m., the Boeing 757 struck the water, left wing first, banking sharply at nearly 70 degrees. The impact was violent and final. There were no survivors. When rescue teams arrived, they found only 9 bodies. The rest had been swallowed by the sea. Investigators later discovered the cause. A piece of gray masking tape applied over the static ports during a cleaning and polishing days earlier had never been removed. Without airflow into these ports, the plane's computers could not accurately measure altitude or airspeed. A simple, almost trivial oversight had cost 70 lives. Partly due to the financial impact of this crash, AeroPeru went bankrupt in March 1999. Boeing accepted legal responsibility for failing to train pilots to handle this type of emergency and paid over $1 million per victim to the families. The mechanic who forgot to remove the tape was convicted of negligent homicide.
In the aftermath, the mechanic responsible was convicted of negligent homicide. Boeing, acknowledging a failure in pilot training for such scenarios, provided compensation to the victims' families. AeroPeru, battered by the tragedy and its financial repercussions, eventually declared bankruptcy. The story of Flight 603 remains a somber lesson in aviation, a reminder that in a world reliant on technology, even the smallest human error can echo into catastrophe. A lesson that continues to resonate in aviation safety today. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe our YouTube channel, Red Dot Aviation.